volunteering during COVID and not getting anything in return, I realized it brings you that satisfaction that money cannot bring. It brings you that happiness that, again, money cannot bring. Yes, money can buy you a lot of things, a lot of experiences, but it cannot buy you joy that brings peace right here in the heart. What's meant for you won't go past by you. Money will find its way. A company is not paying you for money. Your hard work is not paying for you money. God is paying you that money through different means. And it made its way to me.
Why the fuck are you paying a full price for university when you can get up to a 50% guaranteed scholarship? Check out the link below.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Diaries. We have an amazing guest today. She's somebody with 15 plus years of experience in product management. As of recording this, she is a product director at Iowa. By the time this comes out, probably not. And there is a reason for that. Hi Nayab, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. How about yourself?
All good. Why wouldn't you be the product director at Iowa?
I think because I've taken a very bold step of starting something of my own. I'm starting up my own product consultancy agency, but equally I've exploring something in a startup world, trying to build a product which hopefully will add. No, I'm not going to say hopefully. I'm definitely sure it will add value to the Mina region and in general in everyone's life as well.
What was that spark to take this bold step?
You know, interestingly enough, it's been going on in my mind for a while, but a lot of people who have come across during my career have said, you know, you'll do amazingly well if you had your own startup. And once or twice, I've given few investors some advice around some products that will do really well in future or won't do well in the future in the tech space. And that's when I realized, you know what? I've got this because I know what I'm doing. And hence I thought, you know, it's about time. It's always when you feel like it's the right space to do it. Because even with the product consultancy, my friend has been pushing me since last year or so. And I'd been like, you know what? The time is not right. But now I feel like the time is right for me. So hence,
You've been doing product for a very long time, right? You've dealt with companies like Just Eat, Howdens, recently Iowa. And these are different industries, especially Howdens and Iowa strikes important because these are things that we typically, traditionally buy in-store, right? Be it spectacles or with Howdens kitchen appliances and everything. We buy in-store, right? The idea of buying it online with tech products versus a company like Just Eat where the entire business model is built on tech. What was the difference in working for these different companies?
I think, look, ultimately, one thing everyone has common, right? They want to build a great customer experience, be it it's a B2B or B2C, right? Everyone wants to build a great customer experience. And that was a common factor in all these companies. And also, lack of product knowledge. A lot of people might not know I actually stumbled to the product world through Howdens, right? And I just realized that, okay, a lot of people do not have product knowledge or the value that we add and how we can do the problem solving for you, right? And then the second thing is, if someone is already in the tech space, which is like Just Eat, right? It makes your life a little bit easier because the conversations are a lot more easier, and to iterate when you planning your strategic roadmap is much more easier. Managing those stakeholders are easier. There's conversation. When you go into retail or trade space, right, where you rightly said traditional shopping experiences, right, to move away from them, to make it more omni and make it like an e-com platform, there lies the challenge, right? One, you have to really think outside of the box. Two, you have to educate customers to shop differently as well. So taking Howdens' example, right, when they went with their new website, new app, they had to educate those builders, the customers through the builders that, okay, actually, you know, we can do these CAD diagrams, 3D, with the 3D glasses, and you will be able to see your kitchen before it's actually built. That's something you're educating your customers. So you have to remember in these traditional markets, you have to do that. Then coming to Iowa, right? We've just launched our virtual try-on e-commerce app, probably first globally. And in the region as well. I know, to be honest, Lenskart is doing something similar, but the difference where we have got is that You land on the app on virtual try-on. And again, we are trying to educate our customers. And we were trying to solve the, let's move people away from the traditional way of shopping. Reason behind that is times are changing. Not shopping in store is something that's going to stay forever. If you go in UK or Europe or America, a lot of retail stores are closing up because most of the shopping is online. And of course, we all know Shein is killing it, right? So how is it that I can really engage my audience? And that is through virtual try-on. And then the new Itwit AI, we all know, right? So we have to somewhere combine that too, but it has to be relevant to the customer where you can do an AI recommendation to your face shape, these glasses would look nice. But the most important thing is speed and performance have to be so good that the customer doesn't want to leave, right? And why I picked that was because the higher usage of Snapchat in this region, right? We have got customers here who love Snapchat. And I thought, okay, you know what? Then educating and shifting those customers' perspective to this way of shopping would be very easy.
What goes into platforms? We use platforms all the time. There's apps after apps after apps for everything. And what people don't realize is how much thought process goes into this. Different strategies, different personas. We have to map down the customer journey, all these sort of things. And sadly, they don't teach you this in school, right? So if somebody is aiming to enter the product field, how does one enter it? What is the path for somebody to enter as a product manager, product designer, product owner in that product space? What is the career path?
Look, I wouldn't say there's one straight path to enter product because it's somewhere I still feel there is lack of product knowledge. And honest to God, it's not only in MENA region. Globally, I feel like there are certain gaps that people have when it comes to product knowledge, right? If you're someone who comes from business analysis background, data analysis background, it's a really good pathway to, segue for you to step up because ultimately, what are you doing in data analysis, right? You are looking at the data where, okay, this is our qualitative data, which tells me certain things about how our consumers or what our conversion rate is looking like, right? Or where our drop-off is, and we're going to improve that. There already you started thinking like a product person. And you're like, okay, at this funnel from PDP, I'm seeing a drop-off rate of, let's say, 8%, right? Now, is it because my add to cart button is not very visible or not? But why is it, right? So the data analyst will give you the numbers, but equally you will think, oh yeah, but why, right? And that's where your behavioral analysis would come in. So equally, if you ask me, a technical person could be which is where I come from. I came from a development background. And why was it that I chose to come into product was because I thought, oh, you know what? I love developing things, but equally I love interacting with people. So you have to it's a different skill set which could come together to make you a product person. So there's not like one way in, there's multiple paths that you can take. But what is it that ultimately you need to have as a product person? You have to be very analytical. You need to be ready to hustle. You need to do your research. You need to actually be willing to have those challenging conversations with your developers, be able to manage your stakeholders. As long as you've got at least 3 out of those 5 skill set, I think the rest you could learn. Most important is having empathy. A lot of people don't realize how much empathy is important for a product person because you have to empathize with your customers to solve their problems. You have to empathize with your developers to not push them, to a certain limit where they face burnout, right? So then you prioritize your features accordingly. And you have to empathize with your management who is answerable to, investors and board members and your stakeholders who've got certain requirements that they want. So if you don't have that empathy or emotional intelligence, right, you would not be a good product person. Ultimately, I always think that's one superpower that'll get you to succeed as a product manager.
And you are a technical person, right? And a lot of question that I get to know is that, do you have to be a technical person to enter product?
Honestly, no. Not really. This is again, and I would like to change this perception here on your podcast. People think, okay, if I'm hiring a product manager in fintech space or in a AI space, that person has to have that knowledge. No, not really. Product person is one of those people because they anyway have to come and do the research for you, right? So they are going to learn that on the job because ultimately our role doesn't change. This is one role whichever domain you'll put it in, it will mold. So if someone who wasn't technical that missed it, is it because it didn't have the technical knowledge? Or is it because, in hindsight, I didn't even think about this, right?
Because it's like something like absolute and relative terms is like ABCs of development, right? Like
but a technical product person wouldn't know that, right?
correct,
That,
yeah.
okay, when I am developing, I have to give a requirement that the screen should optimize and adjust according to different screen types. And I could say iPad, Mac, iOS, and all that, right? iPhone, sorry. It should adjust according to the screens that I'm defining. But I think, again, sometimes, and I think we have discussed this off the camera as well, we as product people are really hard on ourselves as well. Damn. But ultimately, I agree, it's not something which is a necessity for this role, but yes, it does help. It has helped me in my career. I'm not going to lie to you. A lot. And that's why you see a lot of now CPTO roles are coming, right? For the same reason, because product people who have got technical knowledge, you technically do not need a CTO. You can go evolve into CPTO. But equally, product people who do not have technical knowledge are not good product people. I would not agree to that, because some of those product people have built great user experiences, great customer experiences. And we've got plenty of examples of that.
How has being a product manager helped you with your entrepreneurship pursuit? Like, obviously, there are a couple of things like you have to hustle, you have to figure out your customers, all of this. Now that you're starting out with your own business, how has that helped you transition?
I think I'll tell you a very interesting thing, right? Because what a lot of people do not realize, as a product person, you start from the scratch and it's like a whole circle that you live through till the end. Everyone else comes in, dips out, right? But product person is that one individual who's there from the start, from the point of defining a problem statement, doing research, actually finding the solution, then development, then testing, then benefit realization, and then finding new opportunity, and the cycle goes on. I think, look, at that point, I thought, I'm doing it for other businesses and helping them succeed, adding to their P&L. Why not I do it myself, right? And it all stemmed down again from the factor that I know how to define a problem statement. I know what problem I'm solving, what user personas I need to build this product for, and what use cases are going to be there. Am I going to get it perfect day one? No. But have I got vision and strategy, which is where most of the startups struggle? I've already from the starting point, the first thing I did was not only define my MVP, but I've defined my strategic roadmap for the next couple of years so that I can sell that story to an investor that, okay, you won't be going in blind. I'm bringing you new tech stack. I will be bringing you iteration and will always be one step ahead of the market. And we're solving the actual real problem that is out there, and will be adding value to the customers out there.
And it is a problem that I feel like if you think from a product perspective, you could significantly avoid.
100%. I'll tell you, US, of course, is way ahead of us in these sorts of things ultimately because of Silicon Valley, right? But the reality is they even now are learning, like, how do we need to evolve with times, but be very vigilant that we have to have a strategy and a roadmap, right? It's not something we can start with. And I'll tell you, I was listening to Steve Huffman, right? Reddit, I don't know if you guys have followed. Started in 2005, IPO just recently, after 2 decades. You know why? Because one, they did not have a strategy to evolve and not evolve with time as quickly. What they thought was right at that time, they continued with that and did not want to bring that iteration. No, but because we don't want to upset our customers, we don't want to change that. But that was the broker between them and the IPO. And today, when the same founder got back on board, Steve Huffman, and now he's IPO'd for $6 billion, he admits we needed to evolve with time. We needed to decide this strategy. We needed to see that, okay, this is fine. We're solving a statement here now, but it has to have a whole journey of couple of years where we will get it to IPO.
That's quite interesting, because you've mentioned having a vision, a plan, and I wanted to connect that with your own personal life, because you've moved from tech to entrepreneurship to product and now to entrepreneurship. So what was that journey like when you have to start from scratch again, re-educate yourself and, take that risk? What motivates you and what keeps you going? Because I'm sure we have a lot of people who are in the middle of changing their careers. So what was your journey and how do you think you would like to inspire somebody else?
So I'm not going to lie to you. I studied something completely different in uni, then actually went into development. And even at that point, I didn't know what I was doing. And in 20s, I would personally give all the young people, this is your opportunity to actually go experiment and then feel where does my passion lie, right? What's my calling? And I think, yes, I would say my calling eventually I found in product. However, something changed in my life and that made me think, okay, this is what I should be doing. And that's one thing that I've then kind of adapted to everything. I actually went for an aerial class, right? So trapeze class, you go, not like normal people do. I love experimenting. So I was like, oh, okay, you know what? I'll go and experiment. I kind of stumbled upon that class. I was supposed to go for another class. It was fully booked and they just shifted me to that class. Now I step into that class and it's a whole iron hoop hanging from the ceiling and different girls doing amazing stuff on there. And there is their instructor guiding them. I look at that and I'm thinking, oh, I can't do this. There's no way. I can barely just do yoga on the floor, right?
Yeah, I can relate.
And the instructor just came to me and said, let me be the judge of that. She made me do some simple moves and I got really excited after that. At the end of the class, she said, see, I told you, you can totally do it. Let me be the judge of it. I think you should pick this up and you should carry it. But one thing I would like you to change about yourself, this I can't attitude to I can. And I kid you not, that I applied to every part of my life. The minute I shift my perspective to I can do this, it just literally opened new doors of opportunities for me. Moving from UK to Dubai was a hard move because I did not know anyone. And till now, I've made some few friends, but I technically don't have family here and don't know anyone here. And it was a hard move leaving your family and friends and like your whole life behind, right? But in my head, it was all about, I can. And look, I did. And now I'm going the same thing with my business as well, right? I'm like, I can do this. I've got this. I'm sure it will all work out because I can. So I think this is one advice I will give all youngsters. One, yes, please go explore, go experiment, find your passion, find your calling. And then always have in the back of your mind, I can do this. I've got this. Because if you're not kind to yourself, no one else is going to be.
And I think this is a good place to deviate a little bit into this thing, right? Like, yes, a lot of people have that I can attitude, but there is a lot of things changing in the environment. And I think this is especially for tech people, right? You know, when there are new technologies like ChatGPT that can just write your code, like, how do you manage to stay positive? Like, hey, what I'm doing is probably, I want to keep at it rather than, you know, shift. Because shifting too much is also probably not the right answer. So how do you see new technologies, disruptive technologies affecting that mindset?
So, you know, one thing I think I would like to say to everyone, because a lot of people are very intimidated by artificial intelligence. No artificial intelligence would last without human intelligence, right? It came into place because of human intelligence, right? So please do not see it as a threat, right? One thing. And the reason I say that is tomorrow, let's not put anything into artificial intelligence. No learning language modules in there, which has been driven by human intelligence, where we have collected those data and built those models, right? So let's say you don't put anything in there, it will dry and it would die, right? So I think I would say not jump from job to job or from, different profession to profession just because technology is changing. Instead, upskill yourself, right? Upskill yourself in knowledge. Okay, artificial intelligence has come in. I need to learn a little bit more about artificial intelligence. What are language learning modules? What's transcription? How does OpenAI data sources work? Because ultimately, you know what AI is doing? It's just taking away that drudging job of word texting that we do, right? It will probably help you write your PRD quickly. Gives you ideas about your designs and everything, but not going to do your designs for you because it doesn't understand your customers, right? You understand your customer. You empathize. No matter how much tomorrow they're going to try and put the emotional intelligence part into an AI, it would still not get to where a human is, because a human sees you and adapts their emotional intelligence according to your body language, according to what you're saying, according to how you're behaving. So I would say never feel threatened by a technology. Instead say, oh, you know what? That's a knowledge gap. Let me go and learn on this. And I've done it myself, right? So my first AI app I built in 2020, which was with Kantar. And, the thing that I did was I was like, oh, you know what? I do not know much about AI. I need to learn. And I did. I learned about transcription. I learned about auto data processing, auto moduling, language learning modules. And I upskilled myself so that, and at that time, there was no such thing as product manager for AI. Later on, I did that coaching and mentoring for ASOS product managers for the same thing because there was a gap. And I told them I learned because a product manager for AI is slightly different from a product manager who's working with tech. And people would often ask me, what's the difference? I was like, with AI space, you have to think more quicker. You have to iterate more quicker. Where tech, you can still wait for 2 sprints. No, AI every day, they might say, oh, this data model is not working. Come up with something else. And you have to think of a new scenario, a new user case, new thing. So I said, that's the only difference that I can advise you, that you're working more closely with data-driven people who are more logical than you've ever come across, and they wouldn't understand the emotions level of it. So you cannot be emotional with them, and you need to be more quick on your feet. But again, it's something you learn with experience. So don't, again, it goes back to, right, I can do this, I've got this, and if something I don't know, I'll go and learn.
Yeah. And just to pick up on that one particular word, sprint. What do you mean by sprint for people who don't know what?
Okay, so I'm very agile. I believe in agile ways of working, but I remember when it became, again, it's fashion word that everyone says, oh, we're agile, but didn't understand what agile ways of working is. It's basically you've planned your sprint, and sprint goes for, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 1 week, depending on your company, on your startup. And that means you have decided for those 5 days or for those 2 weeks, depending on your sprint. Let's say I take a sprint of 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, what is the work that my development team is going to work on? I've prioritized it. I've allocated that work according to the story points to my developers.
Gonna stop you again. What is story points?
Story points is the effort that it's going to take a developer to develop a story, right? So the reason for putting it, it's not like I don't trust my developer, but it's also from my understanding, okay, this piece is this complex, so it's going to take a little bit more time. Because equally, you agree, right? Sometimes, or no, actually not sometimes, most of the times, that when you pick up a story, again, people who don't know what a story is, it's like a requirement that we write that we have to develop this feature. Yeah. And it will have to be developed by a backend developer first. So then it can, throw the API to the front end to pick it. So if I know how long it's going to take the backend person, then I know when I'm going to bring that story in for the front end developer. Could it be the next sprint? Could it be the sprint after? And why it's good to do that? Because then you can iterate on things, nice.
Yeah, and it's also like a much easier way to manage people, right? Like you don't want a front end and back end guy just parallelly working, because that's not how it's supposed to work.
I mean, we are done in this crisis situation or in startups, we know. But yeah, actually the healthiest way of working is if the backend developer has done it, then the front-end developer picks it up, then it's more easier because he knows, okay, these APIs are done and that's what I need to bring in, built in the front end to actually
Going to stop you
APIs.
again. What are APIs?
To simplify for people, what it actually is basically a funnel, you can say, from which a backend communicates to a front end. Or it could be one company communicating to another company's database, because a lot of people just throw that word in, API, but a lot of people don't know what it actually is. It basically is in today's world, a tunnel of communication between 2 systems, between 2 platforms, between 2 companies as well, because it could be from cloud to cloud base as well, from front end to back end as well. And yes, we have just given it a fancy name of APIs, and people, whenever they throw the word, people are like, oh, wow, she really knows her tag. But no, it's not. It's not that advanced. It's just literally a communication from one end to other end. You can, the easiest example I can give someone is, think of your phone, right? The way it's just sending a communication from one phone to another. It's literally like that. It's a gateway of the a tunnel of communication between 2 platforms.
Which leads me to the next side of things, right? You were also talking about product consultancy and everything. What was the thought process behind it? And, behind the cameras, we had a chat about things that you're seeing in the industry in regards to culture, in regards to work environment. What was your core at why you want to start a product consultancy?
I'll tell you the biggest thing that made me actually stay in MENA region and actually thought I could start my own consultancy and build a business here, but most importantly, build a culture here, right? I did it in Iowa. I built it with my team as well. If you go and ask anyone of my team, we had a very positive culture. And the way I built it was being able to connect with people, being there for them. And one habit that I had was, breaking the bread with them, because I feel like if you break bread with someone, it connects you as a person. And 85% of the time you spend actually in your office with your working people. So that is kind of your work family, right? Now, few gaps that I saw in MENA region was, one, the lack of emotional intelligence, two, the lack of that culture. Now, I know how much the MENA government is driving to build that, right? They're constantly doing checks. But again, ultimately, if the companies don't want to do it, or I actually don't think they don't want to do it, they don't know how to do it, right? So in UK, again, it was very important to people to have healthy working culture. And the reason behind that was because we openly talk about mental health. We don't consider it as a taboo, which is still a little bit of a taboo to talk about here, right? And most of the time, the mental health issues actually stem from work, because you're stressed out, you get burnt out, and you don't feel empathy from your colleagues, right? And when I worked with different companies, different vendors, right, I realized it's kind of same culture everywhere, that where it's, I wouldn't use drastic words as toxic, but I would say not very positive, right? And in fact, one of my close friends, he works for a very big global company. He actually said to me, knowing that, you willing to stay? And I said to him, you came, you saw how my team works, and you said to me, you built a really positive team, really positive culture, and it influenced the culture in Iowa, right? And I said, that's ultimately what I want to do with my company as well. I want to build a positive culture, and then that probably would influence other companies to build that culture. Because when you build that culture, then the word spreads around, right? I'm not going to say I'm going to be amazing in it, but it could be, my first try to do something right by the society to then actually influence others to adapt. Once the word goes around, people will be like, yeah, that's the kind of way we want to work. I don't want to make someone work who's going through something personally and is actually really down and, not being there for them. Because the minute I'll give them that leeway of, I know you're going through something personally, how about you take some time for yourself, right? I will empathize with that individual, but in that individual's mind, it goes like, this person understands me and they're there for me. And when they feel that, they'll go that extra mile for you. So it's as simple as that. And actually, that was a driving force behind building that culture and building my own company. And that too over here.
And people who are working, right? How do you identify if the work culture is not, for lack of better term, not ideal?
Before that, you mentioned positive culture. What would be the attributes of a positive culture? Because everybody over here says we have a positive culture, we have a family-like culture. Nobody would really...
You have a foosball table.
Yeah, I mean, they have a foosball table, so, you can stay in after hours, relax. Everybody says that they have a positive culture. But when you say you want to build a positive culture, you have something in mind. And what do you think would be the actual attributes of a proper positive culture and not just, whitewashed positive?
I love how you said it's a whitewash positive culture. Look, the reality is when people say I have got positive culture or I've got so stable and all that, that already is your red flags, right? Because if you have, then that's where I would say your people would speak up for you saying, yes, my company has got great culture and it outstands, right? Then, as I said, word then goes around. For me, honestly, positive culture is when you're working, you would want to work. You would want to work with your colleague. You pull your sleeves back and you're doing the groundwork together. Put that elbow grease, but do it together. And you're excited. You're motivated to do that. That actually, I want my team to succeed. I want my people to succeed because we're driving for the same goal. You get out of that bed, you jump out of it because you're looking forward to get to work, because you want to see your people, you want to see your company, you want to see your team. You don't dread going to work. That's a clear sign that you're actually not in a positive culture and you're not enjoying what you're doing. Equally, I think it's very important to celebrate your wins, no matter how small it is, right? A small word as thank you goes a long way, I personally think. Even if it's like, they might just have write you a headline of something or responded to an email for you, but saying thank you for doing that. It just shows them you know what they're doing, you care for them, and you appreciate them. You acknowledge their effort in there. I think that ultimately, for me, is a positive culture. That's what would drive me, right? They noticed what I did. They observed that. And, they've patted my back. They congratulated me. That is, driving that positive culture. Not just, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of more salary because more money means I'm going to make you work more harder. But I don't appreciate all the extra hours that you're doing after the office hours, because that's where come the, work-life balance. You worked your 120% in that 9 to 5. I do not expect you to work outside of those extra hours. However, if you do it out of the goodwill of your heart, because you want to do it, because you kind of become loyal, right? And then you're like, out of loyalty, I want to do it. The minute someone does something for you out of loyalty, that means you have created that positive culture, because that means those people will follow you. No matter where you go, you've earned their respect, and you've managed to create a culture that is actually going to work. And people are like, we're here for this person. We are here to make it work, because they're not offering us like these foosball tables or downtimes or anything, but they're giving me what I really need when I need them. Let's say I've got forbid, I sprained my ankle. She's there for me. She's like, go take that time. I'll take your workload. I'll do it for you. So your workload doesn't get affected, but you get that break, because I know when I need you, you're there for me on those weekends or whenever that extra hours be.
Just playing devil's advocate, I would think if a consulting company were to say, hey, business, I'm going to charge you a particular nominal fee for giving you this consultant, from a company perspective, wouldn't it be a bad sales pitch because somebody else is doing it for much cheaper with no nominal fee, right?
Okay, so, I totally get where you coming from, but it's a very simple thing, right? Let's take Uber, for example, right? Uber finds a driver a ride, right? And again, they take a charge from the driver. Is it right or is it wrong? Who are we to judge that? But equally, that driver knows from day one, I'm getting business from them. If I'm getting business from them, I have already done that handshake, right? Which is where I'm saying business to business, you do that handshake beforehand. They do not agree to that, that's fine as well. They might as well go with someone else who's offering it cheaper, but it's also a little bit about ethical values as well, right? Where does your values lie? Are you going to actually cheat the system? Like I'll explain to you some consultancies. I didn't want to bring it, but now that we're on the topic, I thought it will be ideal to bring some consultancies are doing this, that they're actually speaking to the business saying, okay, we'll charge you, let's say, 20 instead of 30, taking that money and outsourcing that work to India or Pakistan or Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, where people over there are doing the work who do not understand what to develop in Mina or UK or USA. Do you think that's right? Or rather having that transparency, having that handshake right from the start and telling them that your consultant would be there through the journey here. Not like I'll be the face of it and someone sitting in another country in South Asia is actually going to do your work, who doesn't even understand your user base or the use cases or user scenarios in this region.
Yeah, that is the problem, right? Like when we think about, outsourcing it to other places, we don't think about, hey, they don't have the context, they don't have the information, they don't know what their need over here is. But then the ultimate question is that, if I am taking up a contract for development, let's say very simple terms, I want something developed in India, right? And I'm not thinking about, as a business, I'm not thinking about the overheads that come with it. I'll just hire one person over here to translate all requirements. And I'm not thinking about the other overheads, the ethics, everything. On a pure commercial level, it just becomes a bad sales pitch, right? Like that is where I'm coming from. Like I'm coming from the perspective that we sadly don't live in an ideal world.
No, I agree. But right, okay. So what is this company going to offer you? It's going to offer you cheaper commercials, right? In comparison to the commercials that I'm offering. How does your tea get more sweeter when you put a little bit more sugar in there, right? So it's as simple as that. The more sugar you're going to put in a tea, the more sweeter it's going to get. So if you want the right product with the right sort of outcome, you have to pay a little bit more. with that transparent model, because again, I'm promising you quality. I'm not promising you commercials right from the start, right? It's not that far off different where I'm actually taking from a salary of a person who's doing the consultancy to actually I'm charging a business who needs that service, right? But ultimately it goes down to, right, I'm giving you a person who has the knowledge, who is in the region, will build you a product, which at least will give you an ROI. People who outsource, who is giving you something cheap, if the timelines creep, your scope is already creep, so your prices eventually would end up matching, right?
That is often the problem, right? Like when we are doing the financial, we think about who will offer the cheapest quote, but we don't think about what overheads come with it. Like if I'm hiring a product manager locally, that's going to cost extra. Maybe ultimately, like you will see like up and down. Typically having an in-house team or a team that is local ends up cheaper on the long run than outsourcing it to this thing. And this is a math that typically people don't
work out.
do.
And rightly said, because 9 times out of 10 people will be like, oh, but this is cheaper. But with a guarantee, they are organized enough to actually deliver to all the milestones that they've committed. The one thing that we can offer you is we will deliver on those timelines, on those milestones that we've committed to you, right? Because we know that's what you're paying for. A service that is of excellence.
So a very important point, which is moving from one country to other and how it organically happened. So what was that journey like? And let's say we see a lot of people moving either from Mina to the West or from the West moving here. So what was that path like for you? And if somebody wants to create that opportunity for themselves, how should they start?
Okay, I think, look, I wish I'd done it sooner. But I have got no regrets in life. And I think it seems very daunting to start with, because ultimately you letting go of everything you know and going to have to learn something new. If you're up for the challenge and you're ready to do something exciting in your life, why not? Tomorrow you might have regret. What if I had gone and done that? It would have been much more nicer, right? I kid you not. 2019, I had an opportunity. I could have moved at that time, but I chose not to because I didn't have my roots in UK at that time. Like I didn't have my own place at that time that I personally owned. And my friend said, no, right now is not the right time. But in 2022, when I thought to move, by that point, my foundations laid there so that if I want to move back, I've got my own house there, I can move back, right? Equally, I felt I was mentally ready to deal with that challenge. And if anyone says moving to another country is an easy task, I'll be like, please, no, it's not. It's a very, tough thing moving to another country, another territory. And I think a lot of legislations are different, which you're not aware of. People say, oh, no, this is very similar. All my days. No. It's very different. It's not as easy as it seems, but you learn it. You probably make a mistake or two, but you land back on your feet. And then you're very proud of yourself that actually you took that leap of faith. And once you've done it, that's the biggest achievement of your life. Because now I go back home and all my friends say, in that 2 years, nothing changed for us, but you've achieved so much. We're so proud of you. We feel like vicariously we're living through you, right? And then you feel like, actually, I'm probably fulfilling a lot of those other people's dream as well. So if you do want to move, like let's say people who are in Dubai and they want to move to West, please do. Please experience. This world is big and every experience brings you another taste of different adventure in life. Why not? Take that slice of cake and enjoy it and make the most of it. And look, anytime you want to come back, you will be able to come back. Your families are here, your friends are here. They won't go anywhere. So tomorrow, if I go back to UK, I just went back for summers. They were all there for me. I met up with them and life was there, right? So nothing ultimately changes. Wherever you leave things, they will still be there waiting for you. But you would have gone and added another element of achievement or a medal in your life that's going to shape a lot of your future because it makes you very resilient. That's what I felt. I was like, oh my gosh, like this whole Hijari thing was very different. Dealing with the state agents was like eye-opening for me over here. The whole diva thing was so different again. In UK, it's quite simple. And again, rentals are a lot more cheaper over there. So, those sorts of things I learned, and there were no one there to teach me. But now that I've learned, I feel so great about myself, and I feel like, yeah, you know what? Wherever I go next, I will be able to handle it, because if I could do it here, I could do it there too. It's all about learning. It's being open to learn and adjust, and be like, okay, it's not going to be, literally a piece of cake.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I liked how you mentioned opening a business here and all the ijari and documentations that people don't really think about until and unless they get into it.
And I think that's a great advice to end this episode on. Thank you so much for coming. It's a pleasure having you. Wonderful episode.
And all the best for your next project.
Yep.
Thank you.
Looking
Thank you so
forward to
much.
it.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
having me.